Welcome to the Legacy Leaders Podcast. Are you doing the best for your client to help them create their legacy? Are you creating a plan that goes far beyond finances to help people ensure that it becomes the driving force behind all decisions? On this podcast, hosts Katie Beth Hand and Stan Miller will help you with growing your practice and your client's peace of mind. Together, they bring the best and brightest minds to share with you how to help your clients develop their best legacy. And now, here are your hosts, Katie Beth and Stan.
Well, hello, and welcome to the Legacy Leaders Podcast. I'm your guest host, Carol Eddy, from the Denver metro area in Colorado, and I'm excited to introduce to you our guest today, Bennett Braverman. Bennett Braverman is a dedicated trust and estates planning attorney with the Braverman Law Group, based in Boulder, Colorado. With a deep commitment to helping clients secure their legacies, Bennett brings expertise and compassion to his practice. Outside of work, he enjoys an active lifestyle, indulging in running, biking, hiking, and meditation. A lover of good books, movies, and quality time with loved ones, Bennett values his close relationships with his family and friends. He shares his home with his wife, Diedre, and their Corgi, Toby, and their Persian cat, Cody. So with that, hi, Bennett, and welcome.
Hi, Carol. Thanks for having me.
I'm happy to do this. So can you start out by telling your listeners a little bit about your background and how you got into estate planning?
Yeah, sure. I was raised in a family, closely held business, a family business, and we did food distribution in southern New Jersey. My grandfather founded the business, and when I graduated from college, we were the only food distribution company near Atlantic City. So we had all the casino business for several years. And so I had no choice other than to go into the family business after college. But doing that gave me some really great experience in business management, trial by error or trial by fire. And there came a time where we felt that we were either going to have to expand and make a huge investment or sell the business. And so at that point, I made the choice that this isn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And we ended up selling the business eventually to Cisco Foods, which most people are familiar with, big silver trucks. And I had a 5-year contract to remain with them. And then when that contract was over, it was now, what do I do with the rest of my life? So I decided that law school was the best, gave me the most options. Mm-hmm. So I applied for and got accepted to law school. I had a period of time before law school began, and I had an interest in investments. So I went ahead during that year and got a Series 7 license and all the other insurance licenses, etc. And practiced with some friends in financial planning that had a small office near Atlantic City. And I ended up selling an annuity to a pension plan for $5 million during that year. Nice. Which was, it was interesting. And so, but it was just who you knew kind of a situation. And so it didn't dissuade me from going to law school, but I did get some good experience in the financial arena. And then I went to law school. And when I got out of law school, it was, what type of law to practice? And I spent a short time in family law and was completely stressed out and miserable and hated that. And I decided I wanted to do something the opposite, where you make people happy. There aren't that many opportunities in law to do that. Estate planning is one of those unique areas where you're really helping people and providing peace of mind. So I thought, well, my background, I've got business background, I've got investments, I understand investing, and now I have the legal background. That was like the perfect trifecta to go into estate planning. So that is what I decided to do about less than 1 year out of law school. And I've been doing it ever since. And I have a passion for it. And I'm happy to say that I really enjoy my job most of the time.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I know you do.
So what are the common issues you help clients with in your practice?
So I do a lot of foundational planning, just what basically everybody over the age of 18 should have in place. Either a will or a trust and powers of attorney and medical directives, all the traditional estate planning documents. And that's 80% of my practice, I'd say. We have a focus also in our practice on special needs planning. My wife, Diedre, is also an estate planning attorney, and that is her focus because of, some people in her family that have disabilities. And so she was passionate about that early in her career. And then we do some high net worth planning. So some, clients with significant wealth. But Diedre and I have both done training with the Southern California Institute on planning for high net worth individuals. And so that's the other part of the practice for me.
Oh, it's interesting.
But all estate planning, nothing but, no other areas of law.
Yeah.
We focus in. Yep.
So what do you think the biggest misconceptions are about estate planning?
Well, in my mind, one of the big misconceptions is trusts are only for very wealthy people.
Mm.
And living revocable trusts can be very beneficial for anybody, depending on what their needs and concerns are. And so, I'm always asked, do I need a will or a trust? And in Colorado, I found that there's kind of a split with estate planning attorneys on that subject, kind of infamous. We believe in trust planning when it's appropriate, and it usually
What
is.
would you distinguish? And right along those lines, I think, because like you said, state taxes aren't nearly as high here as like California, where you really do have to have a trust, or you're going to probate and pay a lot of money. Whereas in Colorado, I think it's around 4% plus the fee to the probate. So where do you draw that line where you really think people should consider a trust?
I think once there's real estate involved, that's one of the lines, especially if there's real estate in more than one state.
Yeah.
And where privacy is a concern.
Mm-hmm.
And because obviously, well, maybe not obvious, but trusts provide privacy and wills don't, because wills become part of the public record. And so really, my question is, does my client want everything to be as seamless and as smooth as possible on whoever they choose to be their trustee or personal representative, their fiduciaries? And if they want to make that process as easy as possible, then I think trusts are the way to go. If they are choosing a professional fiduciary at their death, then I'm nowhere near as concerned about that issue, because professionals know what to do. But most people choose family members who don't really understand what the responsibilities are going to be. So, making things as legally simple as possible is, when that's the main goal, that's always, I always recommend trust.
Yeah, I think in my practice too, one of the reasons I encourage it, especially for, like you said, the privacy. I don't think people realize that if you go to probate, everything's public and they know exactly how much money was passed down to the family. And if you want to protect that information or want your kids to be protected from that information, or your heirs, that gets to be really important, because you don't want people to know. And all you have to do is put it into a trust to keep that from happening.
Yeah, exactly. And probate kind of is also sort of a forum for a contest. As a notification has to be provided to the world that there's a probate. So anyone that thinks they may have a claim against the estate, real or imagined, knows exactly where to make that claim and how to go about it. Yeah. So, and certainly if creditors are an issue, where they may come out of the woodwork, that may be a reason to have a probate, so that there is a notice to creditors and they can be, ascertained. Uh-huh. But usually that's not the case. And I also recommend trust for incapacity planning. Yeah. I feel like having a trustee manage assets for your benefit with specific instructions during your incapacity of what the trust can and can't distribute is somewhat better than having a financial power of attorney as the main document for incapacity planning. Yeah.
So what do you think the biggest challenge you see your clients facing today?
The estate tax, where there's, people are marginally up against that area, and the uncertainty surrounding that, and how to plan around something we just don't know what's going to happen.
2026 is going to be a big year of finding out.
Big year. Yeah.
So if you're not sure, definitely give one of us a call.
Yes,
There's some big
definitely.
planning things you could really change and benefit yourself by looking ahead just a couple of years. Even if we don't know what's going to happen, we can still help.
Right, right. And I couldn't agree more. It's a unique opportunity for planning
Yeah,
between now and 26. So sooner than later is the concept if you need to review or establish an estate plan.
absolutely. So can you tell us a story about a client you've met that had things go wrong and then they came into your office and you tried to help, but maybe it's too late, or maybe it's not.
It happens all the time. Yeah. So, we do get people calling that someone passes and there is no will. So we've got intestacy or people call that where there is a will, but now need to deal with probate. And, most of the nominated personal representatives just don't even know where to begin. And it is, as you know, somewhat complex. And so, we're here to help people with probate, getting all the papers filed and guiding them through the process. And of course, if it's intestacy, it's probate as well, but a little more involved.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And we have one attorney in the office that's dedicated to that, to probates, will planning.
Yeah,
So, yeah, things usually end up as they should, but it can take a very long time to get there,
yeah,
with
exactly.
probate. Yeah.
And just understanding how the whole process works is very helpful. Can you tell us a story about a time when things have gone really well with a client and where you've seen it play out, how they were able to protect their family, or just anything that would show the benefit of working with an estate attorney?
Oh, so that's the more usual case. And where, yeah, trust has been established, the living trust has been fully funded. We've gotten everything that should be owned by the trust into the trust or designated as the beneficiary. And what I do get is once we lead people through trust administration, which is the other side of probate, but private and without any court involvement, I frequently get the comment that this was so much easier than I anticipated it to be. And that happens
Because the
a
rules are
lot.
already in place and it's just a matter of executing versus trying to figure out what you can
Exactly.
do and how to do it.
It's just do what the trust says to do. It's that right. So it's actually pretty common to have very good feedback on trust administration matters. And that's, I think, the joy we both get from the field that we're in is the peace of mind people get once they establish a plan and they know that everything is handled, and so that peace of mind, and then the ease of the process at the worst possible time in their lives when everything was properly structured and as prepared as it could possibly be, which is what the goal is. Yeah.
Yeah, and we give our clients checklists too, like for their children, and hopefully they'll call us, because then I could just say when they do that call is all you need to do is get the death certificate. Everything else can wait. So take
Yep.
your time.
Exactly.
And your funeral home or whoever you're working with usually will provide that for you. Just get lots of copies and don't worry about anything else until you're ready.
Right. That is verbatim exactly what I say.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I couldn't agree more. And it's interesting. You may have the same experience. We're often really one of the first people to be notified. And that's on a personal level, that's something that, when I first started in the practice and for the first 10, 15 years of my practice, not a lot of people were dying in my client base. And then, as time goes on, every year, there's more and more clients dying. And what I didn't realize is how personally devastating that could be when you really grow to work with people for a long period of time and become, friends at a certain level. And then they pass and it hits you. And yeah, and didn't realize that was going to be something I was going to have to deal with. But
well, the other thing I
there
think
it is.
you deal with just as much as I do is what I call the family baggage. I mean, when you start planning, how are we going to handle the money? All the stories come in of who can handle it and who can't and why, or
Yes,
special needs.
yes,
Those obviously
yes,
come up, and that's super important if you've got special needs. to cover that, because that can make a disastrous outcome if you don't plan for special needs.
Yes.
But yeah, just
Financially
to see that,
devastating.
and then so in my world, I become a therapist, and that happened to be my
Yes.
background. Before I got into this field, I was a therapist for 10
That's
years.
perfect.
So
That's perfect.
it's just
That's great.
keeping him focused on, okay, let's figure out how we're going to solve this and make sure you're protected, your kids are protected, and that you get what you want. And those, again, that's where the trust comes into play. You can make the rules and still be equitable to everybody in the family and make sure it gets, there's not a spendthrift out there that spends it all. Or if you want protections in place, you can make them. So
Absolutely.
there are other clients like, well, I'm dead. That's their problem.
They say that, right? I hear that. I don't know that they always mean that.
No.
Yeah. And, of course, a lot of families have children that are, spendthrifts. They really just can't hold on to money, don't understand investing. A lot of families have beneficiaries that may have addictions.
Yeah.
And the first thing is my clients feel is, well, I'm going to have to disinherit them. And they don't have to disinherit them.
Not at all.
Not at all. As you know, we can create a structure around that inheritance where the money can be managed for the beneficiary, and the trust can provide for the beneficiary's real needs, but not their artificial needs.
Yeah.
And it's very simple to do, and it's a benefit of good estate planning, well done estate planning.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
So what do you like best about your job?
Dealing with people, dealing with my clients, meeting. My best time is when I'm in meetings with my clients, talking and learning about their families, learning about their values, learning what they want their legacies to be, and then creating a way to have that happen.
Yeah.
That's by far the best part of the practice, or sort of being a therapist in a sense. Often, yeah.
Well, I think just, like to me, it's giving them the peace of mind when they leave your office, like, oh, I took care of that. I can cross that off. And
exactly.
if not everything's done, like you said, they know who to call. They know to call me or call the attorney or the CPA. And I help them through all that also. Like, I can help you handle all this. You're not alone.
Absolutely. In fact, I tell our clients, listen, if you get into a traffic accident and you don't know where to go or who to call us, and we'll find the right person to help you. And that's happened a few times.
Get the right number.
Yeah, exactly. So we try to be there for whatever our clients need. We look at it not as a transaction, a one and done, but an ongoing relationship. And we assure that families that will be there for their loved ones when the time comes, whether it's me or someone else in the office, because we're not immortal either.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But someone will be there to help. Yeah.
Yeah. So is there anything we didn't talk about that you'd like your listeners to know?
I think that the main point is a lot of people don't have any planning in place. And they don't realize that we're not just planning for what happens to your assets when you die, but who makes decisions on your behalf if you're ever unable to make your own financial decisions or your own medical decisions. And there is a default process, but it's not a good one and not something you would want anyone to go through. And it's so simple to do an estate plan because we make it easy for our clients. The work is on our backs, and the client just has to give us the feedback we need to create the plan that they really want and need. We keep them in the guardrails, make sure they're not going off the rail. But, everyone over the age of 18 should have foundational estate planning documents in place. And there's stories where that wasn't the case, and young people have tragically died, and, parents maybe who have been divorced and don't get along fight for who gets to be the personal representative for the estate. And maybe there's a wrongful death settlement, and that can be tied up in litigation for a long time and completely avoidable, because the estate plan says who is in charge.
Well, I think I've learned that I think the first time people generally start to think about it is when they have kids. And even so, I've got clients that come in their 40s and up that still have never done a will. And
Sure.
that comes on our checklist too. Obviously, I don't write the wills, but yeah, to make sure that gets done because yeah, like you said, you should do it when you're 18. It just makes, like everything else, makes everything so much simpler for people and for you if it's just incapacitation versus death.
Yeah.
You have something in place that they know who to call and what order to go into and all that.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I think that's the biggest thing is out there is that there's so many people that don't have any planning. Clients that are in their, come in their 40s, 50s, 60s, well, we're embarrassed to say this. Like, don't be embarrassed. You're here.
Yeah.
You're dealing with it. It's fine, right? You're alive. It's all good. And we'll get the plan in place. Or the same thing with updating, right? We did our wills when our children were just born to name guardians. We haven't looked at it since.
Yes.
They're in their 30s or 40s now. Right. Well, it's
also very common.
Yeah, very common.
Yeah.
So one of the things we do with our clients is we always schedule a future meeting 3 to 5 years out, typically, to just touch base and say, hey, has anything changed?
Yeah.
Right. And we just do that on a rotating basis so that everybody's plan stays up to date.
Yep.
And of course, we want our clients to call us if there's any significant changes that would trigger something to be changed in their estate plan. We're here to do that right away. It's just kind of a default review.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So if listeners wanted to contact you, how would they contact your office?
Oh, sure. Just any way they want. We have a website, of course, and you can text the website. You can schedule a meeting on the website. You can call the office. You can email. Any way to get in contact is great. And then we will take it from there. Will the phone numbers and all be on part of it, or should?
I'll list I think we can put them in the show notes. I will double check on that. And then I'll list the website as we close out the meeting.
Oh, great. Okay. Yeah. And then we will, we try to make the process as simple and easy on our clients as possible. No homework, just we go through it all together.
Well, that's great.
And discuss the options.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much, Bennett, for your wise words and great advice. And for all of our listeners, this is Legacy Leaders Podcast with Carol Eddy. And our guest today has been Bennett Braverman. For more information about Bennett and the work that he does, please visit www.braverman-law.com/Bennett-Braverman. That's to get Bennett specifically. And Bennett, thanks again.
Thank you so much, Carol. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
You've been listening to the Legacy Leaders Podcast with Katie Beth Hand and Stan Miller. For more information on them and the show, please visit pinnaclelegacylaw.com. If you like what you've learned today, do share the program with your friends and subscribe wherever podcasts are found.